A much better writer.
Alicization, the arc where Kawahara Reiki finally makes SAO good.
Alicization is where he takes everything he's learned from his mistakes in the first few arcs of SAO, fixes them, and essentially matures into a much better writer somehow.
Kirito could magically predict something bad is going to happen before. Kirito can magically predict something bad is going to happen now.
A much better writer.
The rules of the video game didn't make any sense before. The rules of the video game don't make any sense now.
A much better writer.
Women were damsels in distress before. Women are damsels in distress now.
A much better writer.
Entire episodes were wasted on people sitting down and info dumping before. Entire episodes are wasted on people sitting down and info dumping now.
A much better writer.
The villains were one-dimensional evil rapists before. The villains are one-dimensional evil rapists now.
A much better writer.
Women were completely useless and needed to be pushed out of the way before. Women are completely useless and need to be pushed out of the way now.
A much better writer.
Kirito could overpower anyone even outside the video games before. Kirito can overpower anyone even outside the video games now.
A much better writer.
Oh, here's something new. Gay, pedo, porn.
A much better writer.
And this is how SAO has finally become good.
Oh my god, I have been waiting for fucking cancer!
A much better writer.
Holy shit, they wasted almost 3 episodes in people sitting down and talking before something happens. And when something finally happens, it makes no sense. It mostly has to do with character motivations. Kirito, for example, why is he helping Yu-Gi-Oh to cut down the tree for all those days? He has no reason to do that. Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't know of a way to help him escape the video game. They don't have any means to cut down the tree any faster, and Kirito can always leave and go to the city whenever he feels like it. This part makes no sense. At least until you realize the plot was written backwards, because Kawahara Reiki is completely incompetent when it comes to writing. This is why everyone behaves completely nonsensical, for the sake of the plot moving in any way the author feels like it, and not because it makes sense. That blonde girl, for example, why did she enter the cave? She was told her sister was captured inside, so what was she trying to achieve by going there? The answer is nothing. She just had to do it for the sake of the plot moving along. And by plot, I mean the thing people yell about SAO being a masterpiece because it had a few minutes of Sakuga fighting. Even that didn't make any sense in terms of choreography, when you realize all goblins besides the boss disappear from the screen throughout the duel. Many praise Kawahara for finally making it hard for Kirito to defeat an opponent and even gets injured in the process. But as we clearly see within the same episode, it was just fake suspense, since Kirito still beats the enemy and still saves the girl, who is still nothing more than a damsel in distress. Injuries mean nothing in this setting as well, since they can heal someone even from the brink of death by transferring their hit points to him. May I remind you, Kirito was supposed to be injured as well, but acts completely fine the whole time. And why should anyone care about Yu-Gi-Oh dying? He's just a program in a video game. Kirito can murder everyone in the setting and nobody will be actually killed. This is all fake feels. And now we get another example of the story written backwards, as the spirit of Alice speaks to Kirito to come find her in the city. Okay, now he has an objective, one that doesn't make any sense. Why does she appear now? And why does she speak to Kirito, someone he doesn't know of? And not to Yu-Gi-Oh, who knows her very well and would give him the motivation to go to the city? Oh, that's right, it's because Yu-Gi-Oh is not the protagonist. Kirito is the one who beats the monster, saves the girl, and gets to talk to the plot device that unlocks the next mission. Even if this has nothing to do with his own story, he just hijacks the plot of others and steals the glory. See guys, Kawahara Reiki finally became a good writer. Further proven by how bullshit the video game mechanics are once again. For some reason, they can't lift a sword, but after a battle with bottom-rank monsters, now they can, and they cut down a tree with a few strikes, despite saying it would normally take centuries to do so. It's like they jumped from level 1 to level 90 by beating a couple of goblins. And then the two of them decide to go to the city, which again doesn't make any sense since Yu-Gi-Oh has no motivation to do that. He doesn't know Alice is alive. The spirit appeared only to Kirito, only he knows it. This whole plot is bullshit. But this is fixed by having a couple of minutes of Sakuga, so it's a masterpiece. Blah.
A much better writer.
Artificial intelligence. What its intended purpose is for real life. A 35-year-old Japanese man held a wedding ceremony for Hatsune Miku, where he was supposedly marrying this fictional character. It's a very realistic topic, because in this day and age, right now, in real life, people are trying to create something very similar to, replace humans. If a dude's willing to marry a fictional 16-year-old girl when he's in his mid-30s, probably just too socially defunct to talk to real little girls. And so this could be a very gray area for some. It is actually a gray area. When you think about it that way, it's not hurting anybody, but what difference does it make? I think it's actually really regressive to society in general. It's a scene, honestly, that just shows how messed up AI really can be. There's this one guy who has sex with his car. There was this one woman who was in love with a Ferris wheel. Really feels like it's real, and it has its own emotions and acts in its own way. It goes into an area to where is it right to really just mess like they're not even a person? How sad does somebody have to be in order to fall in love with 2D characters? Is it really right to just treat them like they're just some form of object? Like they don't have any rights whatsoever? I really don't like the fact that there's so many people who are just accepting of everything. Have you thought about the AI's rights? What they should be able to do? What they should want to choose? The person needs help, and everybody just compliments people on everything, on every problem that they have, instead of actually dealing with it. Mankind is playing God. They are deciding what to do with this new form of life. I feel like it's very selfish. I want to marry my Nintendo Switch. Creating new humans that technically are throwaways. It's like they're creating a lesser species. People who marry dolls and people who have these fictitious relationships with inanimate objects, it may become psychotic. You could just do so much. The possibilities of how much time you can use and how much your mind could grow while being in a game for, let's say, 10 plus years while your body's only aged about 8 hours is pretty ridiculous. I mean, there's just so many capabilities and ways you can apply this technology. The biggest problem that people have with meeting women is all in their head. Messed up. It's a very dark outlook, and it just shows that this is definitely an arc that is very relevant to this day and age. How weird of a world is it that we live in that marriage ceremony is busted by the copyright police because the person's marrying intellectual property? Do they deserve rights if they don't really have a body? They're just a program. They're just an AI. They're not actually living beings like we are. Do they deserve to have rights? Turning your back on real people and turning to fictional characters or inanimate objects is not the way.
A much, much better writer.
Makes a lot of sense because of the imagination.
Kirito is using a Super Saiyan sword. His opponent is using Super Saiyan Red and is winning. Then Kirito imagines his sword to become Super Saiyan Blue and he wins. That's the tactic he used.
It's always been there in the series since the start. It makes perfect sense.
The show has become 80% people sitting down and info-dumping bullshit about how the video game works and how everything makes sense. And then they tell you as long as you wish it, it's going to happen. So why did you waste all those hours explaining something that eventually is not gonna make any sense?
Many are not gonna notice that or appreciate what the writer did.
And it's so dumb how Kawahara thinks he's fixing the plot holes of the previous arcs by making it seem like using your imagination to win was always part of the video game, thus it's not a plot hole, while telling you at the same time how this entire world is supposed to be a realistic simulation for the military to train their soldiers.
Let's put this in a realistic perspective.
If you go to fight a battle where you think all it takes is to wish for the enemy to be defeated, you're going to die.
The imagination can really affect an individual if, you don't think you have the confidence to be able to beat someone.
Because there's nothing realistic when your army goes to battle and wishes the enemy to be defeated, exactly as he was trained to do in the simulation. The very premise of the arc makes no sense, and Kawahara has the nerve to say it's not a plot hole anymore.
The beautiful character development that Kirito got within this episode.
Also, despite anyone saying SAO finally became good, because it's not time skipping all the time in every episode, and thus the plot is not going to feel disjointed, or the characters won't be acting differently in every scene. This arc has been doing exactly that at least a dozen times already.
We know he's been there for almost 2 years now, but we haven't legitimately got to see every single day.
Therefore, every time you see someone changing after a dozen time skips where he did things we never saw, is still character rewrite caused by lazy writing.
Great player at a game, someone that is the MC that has plot armor, it'd be amazing to be able to play a game that's VR. I would love it. I think many of us would love that experience.
Therefore, SAO is still shit and nothing more than low-effort pandering for gamers.
And it's gonna be weird probably communicating with people, because you'll have a whole different outlook on life. It'll definitely add, some maturity.
A much, much better writer.
A female character falling in love with another character that isn't Kirito. Everybody's surprised.
What?
It's refreshing to see a female character that's just not, wanting to be with Kirito and actually falling in love with someone else. You were probably surprised to see that.
For fuck's sake.
Yes, Kirito's not the only one that's actually getting romantic interest. Refreshing. I love that.
I'm not going to tell you how to run your business, but don't chat shit!
Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not just a throwaway character. He clearly is an MC that's very important, and I think many anime-onlys are just going to be very shocked, like, is this even SAO anymore?
If it was possible to reach through a computer monitor and slap round the back of its head, I would have done that.
Many are really going to start falling in love with this series even more, getting to see what SAO truly is instead of the shallow husk it was in the first season. Wow, I am so freaking amazed about Log Horizon. This might be the next greatest hit since Sword Art Online. It feels good. It does something right that Sword Art Online also did. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm a big fan of MMORPGs. The nobles obviously are scumbags, and it's a common trait you see in a lot of series. It's so common, it's a normal thing, it's cliche at this point.
Yes, it's deranged, it's utterly fucked up, but that's business for you these days.
But does that mean it's a bad thing? Not really, it comes down to execution. Their main purpose is just to dive into how the taboo index really works.
Everything isn't completely shit, but most of it is.
A much, much better writer.
1D waifu begs 1D self-insert to save her from 1D rapists for maximum chauvinism. 1D rapist throws in a pretentious 5-minute monologue as he molests 1D waifus for maximum demonizing. Several disgusting shots of terrified 1D waifus for maximizing victimizing. 1D self-insert breaks the rules of the game to please the power-up tards. 1D self-insert makes his eye explode to please the edgelords. Power Fantasy Kirito jumps out of nowhere for a last-moment save with no foreshadowing. Power Fantasy Kirito offers revenge porn by saving 1D waifus from 1D rapists, as the audience screams its pants with how awesome he is. 1D Power Fantasies seduce 1D waifus for saving them from 1D rapists, thus treating women as no more than prizes. All wounds are instantly healed and nobody gets punished for committing such horrible crimes, thus no consequences. Mature audiences, my ass.
A much, much better writer.
SAO finally got good by using amnesia as a source of conflict. Other shows do the mistake of trying to have legit reasons for why childhood friends turn against each other. Kawahara Reki is such a genius writer, he does not fall for that nonsense. He just takes away people's memories and rewrites them however he feels like it, so there will always be conflict. SAO finally got good by making character motivations as nonsensical as they always were. Our heroes waste years in training without getting any closer to finding Alice. Then they break the law and she instantly comes to see them. So why didn't they simply break the law since day one and be done with it? Because Kawahara Reki is such a genius writer. SAO finally got good by still treating women as no more than waifus who do nothing but cook for the men. Kawahara Reki really improved his writing since the first arc, when Asuna was doing the exact same thing for Kirito all the time. SAO finally got good by giving us a sad separation of the men by their waifus. Said waifus only had 20 minutes of screen time so far, so good luck giving a shit about them. Also, most of said screen time was spent on them getting sexually assaulted than being fleshed out. Also, they're just programs, they're not real. SAO finally got good by not sending this bitch to prison. She helped Kayaba to kill thousands of people for no reason, and as punishment she's the head of the simulation project. And everyone's fine with it, because that's how Kawahara Reki's logic works. You sexually assault one woman, you are the worst piece of shit on the planet. You kill thousands of people for no reason because you were in love, you are a hero. Here you go, take a high-tech facility and keep doing what you are doing as thanks for your crimes against humanity. And once again, half the episode is wasted on infodumps, where we are told shit nobody cares about, nobody will remember, and they won't matter anyways because they can break the system with their imagination. That's what made SAO finally good. Kirito and Yu-Gi-Oh are in chains. They want to break the chains with something that is as hard as them. How do they manage to do that? by banging one chain with another chain until they break. Holy shit, this supposed realistic simulation allows you to break anything by hitting it with itself. Why do they even have prisons if everyone can escape that way? SAO finally got good. Our heroes are in such a hurry to escape that they stop in the yard and have a 5-minute gay dialogue out in the open where everyone can see them. Extra points for the flower symbolism in the background. SAO finally got good. And the episode ends with a mini-boss appearing, who will be the first of a dozen as they go up a tower to find Alice. In fact, this will be the plot for the rest of the series. That's right, this is how SAO is going to have 50 episodes. By fighting random people as they go up a tower. SAO finally got good.
A female character falling in love with another character that isn't Kirito. It's refreshing to see a female character that's just not, wanting to be with Kirito and actually falling in love with someone else. You were probably surprised to see that. Kirito's not the only one that's actually getting romantic interest. Many are really going to start falling in love with this series even more, getting to see what SAO truly is. Alice fell for Kirito, which typically does happen in SAO. Like, let's be real here. Every female character falls for Kirito. Kirito has a harem. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be a little bit upset if he finds out that Kirito's been making some moves on her.
Because if they can confuse the customer enough, they can be talked into just about anything.
Now do you see why, we really like this arc and why many say this is easily one of the best arcs of SAO? Kirito, he had to work for that victory. He had to really go at the edge of his seat to be able to win, which is just so refreshing. Felt like he truly was going to die. Like, he was dead. He was a dead man walking, which, like I said, is just so refreshing. And I feel like many watching this episode is just going to be extremely happy with just the quality of the adaptation. There's a lot of things that really just make up for all the problems that the original parts of the story had. And I am looking forward to it, because Kirito, if he dies, he's actually going to be able to get out. It's okay. That's the point here. Kirito, we're not really worried about him. I mean, let's just be 100% with each other. Kirito is going to be fine. Regardless of what happens with the story, Kirito is going to be able to get out. He's going to be able to be okay. He's going to be able to figure out something.
A much, much better writer.
Half the episode is once again wasted on people sitting down and talking, and if you think what they're saying has any depth to it, it just amounts to the generic protection syndrome of shonen heroes. All this talking just to get something with the same depth as Fairy Tail. Look at her screaming about fighting the evil authority so she can unlock a new power-up, and now you are ready to join the pool of generic characters who can only scream about their nakama. But first you need to enter Kirito's harem, because you're a girl, so what else can you do? Hold me down firmly, oh self-insert power fantasy Kirito, In the meantime, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is given the chance to kill the big bad of the arc, but he stops because he's thinking about his brothers. Brothers they never bothered to show us, so this part has absolutely no emotional gravity. How deep the themes are when you stand there listening to someone talking about his mommy, and how much can you care when his mommy was just background decoration the whole time? Reki Kawahara really improved his writing. In the meantime, we finally have a female character who does not exist just to be molested and saved by Kirito. No, she's far more respectable than a piece of meat that exists just to be fucked, which is why she's whoring herself to a guy she just met, therefore being a piece of meat that exists just to be fucked. And then they try again to make the scene seem serious by having Yu-Gi-Oh! Wondering what is love and if it can be bought. Of course not, Yu-Gi-Oh! She's a slut, she doesn't want your money. Then they double down by saying love is not something you can get as a reward. That's rich, mentioned in a show where Kirito adds every girl he meets into his harem as a reward for helping them. Come to me, Yu-Gi-Oh! Into me, this is a light novel. And then 2 years worth of semen galloped endlessly into the main villain. SAO finally went hentai, got good. Yes, so good.
A much, much better writer.
So the first half of Alicization is over and it was bullshit as always. Nothing made any sense whatsoever. People were just wishing stuff to happen and they were happening. That's as far as tactics and intelligence goes in this show. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was brainwashed into an enemy but broke free because he wanted it. Then Kirito makes his clothes to magically change into his black swordsman uniform from the first arc because he wanted it. Then Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets a power-up and changes into a sword because he wanted it. Then Alice is about to be stabbed, but Kirito teleports in front of her to block the attack, even though he was in a prone position way behind her because he wanted it. then Kirito becomes more powerful than the administrators because he wanted it. And when the naked whore tries to escape, the fat minion jumps a mile in the air and blows up with her, although just a second ago he was powerless and bleeding to death. How could he manage to do that? The same way everything else happens in this stupid show, because he wanted it. Reiki Kawahara really improved his writing and SAO finally got good. There is no way anyone can defend SAO after so much bullshit, so I posted my review of it on Reddit expecting everyone to agree with me, since it's impossible to deny all that nonsense. Guess what the replies were like? It is too long and you're stupid and I'm not going to explain why you don't like it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they are still defending SAO and they don't bother to tell you why. They even drop as low as saying, every show has problems, therefore all shows are the same in quality. Sword Art Online is equally as good as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so you shouldn't bother to explain what problems you have with the show. This is the face of the anime community. All anime are the same, and therefore you should like everything. Also, why would you not care about Yu-Gi-Oh being a program? He's real within the video game. A realistic video game where everything happens because you wanted it and not because it makes any sense. You think I care about the characters if they are brainwashed to be evil instead of having good motivations and then just break the mind control because Kirito wanted it? Also, can we stop with the double standards already? You can't on one hand say you won't bother to write down why you disagree, while at the same time not bothering to read the review of someone who wrote a lot because he bothered to explain. Just say some main points? I did exactly that. They are marked with capital letters for you to find them, but you won't notice them if you don't bother to scroll the text for 3 seconds. Also, how can a rant be pointless when it makes 100 points? It is pointless only for you and only if you refuse to read it. Here's the classic fallacy once again. If you didn't like it, why did you watch it? Because if I hadn't watched it, I wouldn't know if I didn't like it. Also, this is supposed to be the arc where SAO finally gets good. If you don't watch it now when it's good, when the hell are you supposed to watch it? After a while, the pretense stops and the delusional fanboys become more honest. Don't post something the majority disagrees with on Reddit. It is not a place you go to express your opinion, it is a place you go to circle jerk with delusional fanboys who will keep harassing and reporting anyone who doesn't want to give them a blowjob. And I find it funny how half the comments were trying to prove me wrong by saying I didn't read the novels as if I watched the wrong version of SAO. Why would I read the novels when the only reason you give me is because they have triple the amount of info dumps? 70% of the anime is people sitting down and talking. You honestly think even more of that shit is going to fix the gazillion plot holes or magically make me think Reiki Kawahara is a great writer? It won't, because it's trash. The magical wishing thing makes sense because the novels explain for 1,000 pages why powerful individuals can do that. How the fuck does that make it any better? Especially when you kept saying Kirito is not overpowered in Alicization and he's not gonna win all the time. Here you are, admitting he is as broken as he always was. Do you see the cognitive dissonance these fanboys have? They will contradict themselves all the time just to support their delusions. And finally, if it's the adaptation's fault for making it seem SAO is so bad, and anyone who has read the novels knows it's a crappy adaptation, then why the fuck were you saying it's an amazing adaptation? How can you on one hand blame the adaptation for being bad to anyone who doesn't like the anime, while at the same time saying it's an amazing adaptation to anyone who loves the anime? You are a joke, anime community. You are worse than the adaptation of SAO. But you won't admit that because everything has problems, therefore every fan of SAO is equally bad as each and every one of you watching this video right now. This is what it means to be a fan of anime. Anime brings us together by making us all equally stupid as Chibi.
A much better writer.
Sword Art Online is finally back and we are supposed to like it so they can make even more Sword Art Online. Consume product and be excited for more product. It finally got good in this season by still being about women getting sexually violated by tentacles. This is peak SAO. It was terrible before, it is still terrible now, but it got better and I will tell you why. Because the woman wasn't saved by Kirito, she saved herself. There you go, it's no longer a male power fantasy where a self-insert is saving defenseless waifus and adds them to his harem. Now women are dynamic and save themselves. SAO finally got good. Just disregard the fact that that scene lasted for 5 minutes and Leifa could escape right away but didn't because she wasn't sure if the molester was evil. She needed 5 minutes of tentacle rape just to be certain the one-dimensional rapist was a one-dimensional rapist. More than enough time for the sleazy otakus to jerk off to the tentacle rape before proclaiming SAO is now officially a great series.
Something that only a master writer could possibly do.
The improvements don't stop there. The one-dimensional rapist is now a woman. Reiki Kawahara shows us how much he has improved as a writer by not making all one-dimensional rapists to be male. Now women can be just as horrible. How progressive, how bold and brave. Let's congratulate Reiki Kawahara for finally becoming a great writer. I mean, he's still using tentacle rape and one-dimensional rapist as a cheap way for making you hate the villains instead of bothering to give them depth, but that is nitpicking. SAO is now officially a great series.
Something that only a master writer could possibly do.
And let's not forget the biggest improvement of them all. Kirito is now a vegetable. He's no longer an OP self-insert that does all the work and overshadows all the rest. And that is why all women love him and want to have his babies despite being a vegetable. Kirito has received an amazing character development from a ridiculously overpowered guy who wins all the time because he's a generic power fantasy for gamers to a vegetable who gets all the pussy without having to do a thing. SAO is now officially a great series that will make all haters to change their minds. All you have to do is watch 4 seasons until it gets good. If you didn't, you never gave it a chance until it got good, you impatient hater!
Something that only a master writer could possibly do.
A much better writer.
What a crappy episode this was! They wasted the previous season in a war where one-line characters were fighting each other for reasons nobody gave a shit about, and then they end it all with the cast of the previous seasons literally becoming Deus Ex Machina, who jump in the war and stop everything with Huck's powers, thus rendering everything the denizens of this world were fighting over completely pointless. Why bother doing anything if gamers with Huck's powers can save the day whenever they feel like it? And there are so many stakes in this arc. The tension is really high when nobody can die. The faceless denizens of this world are not real, and the faceless gamers who are real can only lose their avatar. I'm shaking in excitement. You don't even get to see them fighting much because over half the episode is once again people sitting down and talking about boring shit nobody cares about. Because why bother showing it when you can say it and be done with it? It saves you the budget, and the idiots who like video games are going to be jerking off to the terminology. Aggro DPS, macro level up drop rate. This is so deep.
Why are you telling me all this?
It's plot exposition. It has to go somewhere.
And what did you know? That vegetable of a main character is regaining his consciousness when his waifus are entering the game in order to tell him how amazing he is as a vegetable. Who would have thought that out of all the supposed deep themes and complex terminology this series is full of, the answer to how they can make the ridiculously broken main character back to being ridiculously broken and rendering pointless everything that everybody else is doing is to give him his waifus.
What an unbelievable coincidence!
When you know that, there is nothing to care about the fight between the knight and the evil big boss. Yes, he struggled to defeat him and he eventually won. But he achieved nothing in the long run, because the bad guy can return whenever he feels like it without losing a thing. And what is this bullshit about trying to make us believe the villain of the first arc is a good person now, when she had spent the entire first season in being a one-dimensional naked evil slut who planned to consume the souls of countless people for her pleasure? Fuck off, Kawahara, you're pulling the same bullshit as you did with Kayaba, who did terrible things and killed thousands of people for no reason, yet you want us to think he was a hero. Thank goodness you improved your writing and you no longer rely on sexual molestation and one-dimensional evil rapists for making the audience hate your bad guys. That's the shit companies expect me to decride, so they can sell marriage through memes. But don't worry, because I will always be refusing.
A much better writer.
In this episode, we see once again why SAO finally got good. Kirito is now out of commission, therefore nobody's safe thanks to him. They have to struggle and they lose in many cases. Without Kirito to save them, they are left alone to fend for themselves and have to deal with whatever tragedies happen on their own. Such as these two waifus here, who mention Kirito as means to get hope. Kirito is the same thing as Jesus to them. The moment they mention him, they get motivated to keep fighting. Thus, SAO proves how good it finally is by having Kirito as the sole source of hope in the universe even when he's a vegetable. This doesn't contradict the claims of the fanboys regarding Kirito not being overpowered and everyone not relying on him anymore. And look at that, the laughing coughing is back. Why are these mass murderers not in prison after all the shit they have done in every arc so far? Don't ask questions, just consume SAO, now that it finally got good by keep using the same villains who shouldn't be here anymore. The show is about exploring societies in video games, so don't nitpick it by expecting to show the real world. Things like police and common sense do not exist because they are not video games. And then the episode ends with a cliffhanger. Man, this is so thrilling. I can't wait to see if nobody number 1 shoots nobody number 2. These characters are really important and I care about them. And I'm sure it's not going to be fake tension for stopping in such a way. I mean, why would they end the episode like that if these nobodies are not going to actually shoot each other? And that is how SAO finally becomes well written.
A much better writer.
The plot continues with the two nobodies being ready to shoot at each other, but not before the bad guy infodumps his entire evil plan for no reason other than Kawahara Reiki not knowing how to show it in the plot. He just gave the bad guy a one-dimensional rapist face, had him talking for 5 minutes, and called it a day. And the funny part is, it doesn't matter what he's talking about, his plan doesn't matter, the justification of his actions don't matter, and his personality doesn't matter either. When you're shown a quick flashback to how he was the tentacle monster who molested Asuna during the worst arc in the series, do you give a fuck anymore? There is no debate, there is no theme exploration, you just wanna see him getting beaten, just like all the previous one-dimensional rapist bad guys. And that is how SAO finally got good. Meanwhile, the harem bimbo from the shooting game faces a bad guy from her past that conveniently happens to be here. Just like the previous villain, he infodumps a bunch of shit that don't matter and proceeds to sexually molest her. Because if there is one thing that is better than one rapist per episode of SAO, that would be 2 rapists per episode of SAO. And Kirito is not around, that means she is fucked. Or is she? Out of nowhere, a magic trinket that didn't exist up until that point appears through the power of convoluted bullshit, and Kirito saves the harem bimbo despite being a vegetable. And that is how SAO finally got good. Meanwhile, harem bimbo number 1 named Asuna faces a bad guy from her past that also conveniently happens to be here. Just like the previous villains, he infodumps what he plans to do and proceeds to mentally molest her. Ha! See? Kawahara Reiki does not repeat the exact same ideas all the time. I mean, he has 3 rapists in one episode, one for every arc in the franchise, who all happen to appear at the same time, and they are all infodumping their evil plans for no reason, but this one doesn't do it physically, he does it mentally. There, see? Variety. He does it because he gets orgasms by betraying his best friends and sending them to be murdered by good people. Such amazing writing one can only expect from SAO. And just for the sake of having a cliffhanger, the one-dimensional mental rapist demands for vegetable Kirito to be brought to him. Oh, such excitement! I wonder what's going to happen next. It can't possibly be something as lame as Kirito regaining all his powers, kicking the crap out of all the rapists, that we don't care what they are talking about, and adding even more bimbos to his harem. That would be bad writing one cannot expect from SAO.
A much better writer.
It takes real talent for managing to cram so many examples of bad writing in a single episode. Let's begin with the leader of the Laughing Coughing, who is now officially the edgiest of all villains in SAO. So this guy hates Japan because his daddy wasn't paying attention to him. For that reason, he decides to murder all Japanese people, and he begins by entering the original SAO where you die in that game. And to be clear, he goes in after he knows that, meaning he willingly trapped himself inside a death game for the sole purpose of murdering Japanese people because his daddy didn't pay attention to him. Inside the game, he creates mass murderers whose sole purpose of existing is murdering Japanese players. How does he create mass murderers? The same way everything works in video games, by wanting it. He wanted a magic spell that brainwashes them into becoming mindless killing machines, and he got it. That's how SAO works. And that is how Kawahara writes his villains, as one-dimensional mass-murdering rapists with daddy issues who want to murder millions with brainwashing magic that he presents as video game logic. And to think there are still people who would love to be trapped inside SAO. A death game, where out of nowhere someone can brainwash into becoming a mass murderer, or where you can be killed by your best friend because of a very well-explained video game terminology. Anyways, this mass murderer, who is not in prison despite everybody knowing he is one, is attacked by the movie characters which were missing from the plot all this time. Why is that? Because they are filler. They were never in the novel and thus have no place in the plot, which is why everything they do amounts to nothing. They appear out of nowhere and they disappear just as suddenly from the show a few minutes later without achieving anything or any of the other characters bothering to remember they were even there. A complete waste of time and a horrible way to shoehorn filler material in an already terribly written plot. Meanwhile, the harem bimbo from the shooting game fights her molester and is about to be killed when suddenly she gets saved by the exact same MacGuffin as before. She's practically undefeatable with that thing vegetable Kirito gave her out of screen. There is nothing to worry about her anymore. She can defeat anyone and can be stopped thanks to getting the same unbreakable plot armor as Kirito. Meanwhile, that nobody who was about to shoot another nobody 3 episodes ago still hasn't moved from where he stands and gets conveniently thrown off the edge. If only he wasn't talking for the past 3 episodes and was instead just doing what he wanted. That is the end of the tentacle monster rapist, and we are all supposed to cheer for getting justice porn. Only we don't, because we don't care about him. He was just another molester, bad guy, and too stupid to pose any actual threat. Why would anyone care about him? Once that is over, the other nobody thanks the chick who saved him and asks her out. Because why wouldn't he fall in love with the person who saved him? That's what happens with every girl that gets saved by Kirito. There is consistency there. Just ignore the part where that woman helped out the guy who murdered thousands of people for no reason and is now considered to be a hero. Kawahara really improved his writing. And then the episode ends with the nobody using the power of harem for sending a signal that can wake up Kirito, because nothing is stronger than the will to protect your waifus. And that is how SAO finally got good.
A much better writer.
Here's the moment we've all been waiting for, the episode where Kirito-sama wakes up and kicks ass. And it happens thanks to the bad guy, who is completely gay for him. He's willing to murder every single person in the world just for waking him up. What more evidence do you want for this stupid show being an empowerment fantasy where everything revolves around the self-insert, to the point even the main bad guy idolizes him? Talk about an ego stroke. By the way, the bad guy's holding a weapon that gets weaker the more he uses it on monsters, and stronger the more he uses it on real people. This is an actual weapon Kayaba made back in the original Sword Art Online. A weapon specifically designed for killing real people and not the monsters that you have to defeat in order to escape from the death game you are trapped in. And yet everybody calls Kayaba a real hero. The very person who murdered thousands of people for no reason and created weapons that are meant to be used on real people. How insane does someone need to be for calling such a person a hero? And you know what's even more fucked up than even that? Asuna getting a power-up from a ghost. There is a stupid video game explanation for the mind control and the human-killing weapon, but there is none for getting a power-up from a ghost. And it's obviously a rehash of Ghost Kayaba making Kirito stronger than the gay rapist fairy back in the incest arc. You remember the time when his own sister wanted to bang him, and then a ghost came out of nowhere and made him a god? It didn't make any sense back then, and it doesn't make any sense now, when SAO is supposed to finally be amazing because Kawahara really improved his writing. And you know what's even more fucked up than even that? Kirito having a montage of all the edgy bullshit he did throughout the seasons, shredding his chest open with his bare arms, and then chopping off his own heart. What kind of a sick mind would write such a thing? I bet one who thinks gore porn is the pinnacle of maturity. You want people to say your show is deep? Make it as edgy as possible. Have one-dimensional rapists and people chopping off their own hearts. That's what mature anime are all about, and why Kawahara really improved his writing. But who gives a shit? It's all in service of waking up Kirito from his coma and instantly making him more powerful than even the gods. And yes, he is more powerful than even the gods, because the accounts his waifus are using have god-level skills. And he instantly became the strongest being in existence because, as we were promised by the dick riders of this abomination, Kirito is not overpowered in this season. He struggles, he has to work really hard, and is never the strongest. And that is why he wakes up from a coma and is instantly the strongest being in existence. Because Kawahara really improved his writing. Remember when Kirito woke up from SAO and was completely skinny and weak? That was bad writing apparently, and Kawahara improved it by letting you do anything you want just by imagining it. That's what realism is all about. Imagining yourself waking up from a coma and instantly becoming the strongest being in existence. SAO finally got good, guys. It's so good, everybody loves it. Look how little karma it gets and how it's surpassed by a generic fighting show and a generic harem. People really prefer SAO now that it finally got good and deep and mature, unlike the bullshit it was in previous seasons. That will shut up anyone who doubted the skills of Kawahara-sama and didn't have any faith in him when he said he improved his writing. Checkmate, atheists! Praise Lord Kirito!
A much better writer.
This episode proves why SAO is not a power fantasy as many haters lie all over the internet. Kirito's harem stares at him doing nothing because they know they are useless when he's around. Kirito starts by instantly freezing the entire enemy army and not a single friendly soldier. How did he do that? By not being overpowered. Then he summons Yu-Gi-Oh and magically fixes his sword. How did he do that? By wanting it, obviously. Don't you pay any attention to the video game rules? Then he makes all the enemies to evaporate without letting the one-dimensional rapist to become stronger by absorbing their life force. How did he do that? Well, we don't know how video games work in the future, so we cannot say this is nonsense, we just have to accept it. Then he turns the bad guy into a tree. How did he do that? Well, it's symbolism for when the show began by cutting down a tree. It makes perfect sense. Then he creates a magic rain that instantly heals everyone. How did he do that? The same way he freezes armies, summons ghosts and turns people to trees. Because he's Kirito, didn't you get used to it by now? Then he takes his number one waifu to his arms and flies away. Because why not? That's what all gamers who identify with him want to do. But since this is a harem, he also has to save the new addition to his collection. So he teleports in front of another bad guy who is about to hurt her while looking all badass. So as you see, SAO is no longer a power fantasy. It's well written, it's deep, and anyone who didn't have the patience to watch all those seasons until it gets good didn't give it a chance.
A much better writer.
The episode begins with Kirito turning dragons into babies. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. Then the bad guy uses his hentai tentacles, but Kirito breaks free with the help of people who don't die after they are killed. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. Then Kirito sprouts wings in order to fly, which he didn't need, since he was already flying faster than light without them. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. Then the bad guy transforms into some sort of Cthulhu monster without ever establishing how he could do that. The previous bad guy had the excuse of his weapon becoming stronger the more people he kills. This one here didn't do anything while he was in the game, and yet he can do far more absurd things. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. Then Kirito wants to create a spirit bomb and uses telepathy for asking every person on the world to give him their energy. And they do. Right away, even if they don't know him or were fighting against him just moments ago. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. So Kirito creates a spirit bomb in about 3 seconds of real time, which is broken as shit, and uses it for not only defeating the bad guy in an instant, but also for taking every single person outside of the game, including the NPCs. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on. Then the only people remaining in the game is Kirito and his number one waifu, and they will spend centuries together before they manage to get them out, although Kirito is stronger than the gods and can do whatever he likes, thanks to the brilliantly thought out video game mechanic of getting what you want just because you want it. This shouldn't be a problem whatsoever. It's completely NARM, but as the SAO fanboys insist, it has been explained in a boring long info dump somewhere, thus you are not allowed to dislike it just because you weren't paying attention and you don't understand what is going on.
A much better writer.
The episode is filled with NARM, nothing new there, yet the fans will insist everything has been explained, such as the ghost of Kayaba magically appearing inside a robot. We have seen ghosts before, so it has been explained, which is why everyone working on the video game and who are supposed to know everything about it, since they have been explaining it for the past 44 episodes, look at the ghost and go, what the fuck is going on? It's just a video game, ghosts have nothing to do with science. But I am sure the fanboys are going to say it's not a ghost. It's a program that Kayaba wrote while he was still alive, and secretly uploaded into the video game so it can conveniently appear whenever it suits the plot. This is the 3rd time it happened, so you are not allowed to say you don't like it because they explained it. I mean, they didn't. It's a headcanon of the fanboys, since not even the ones explaining the game understand what is going on. But it is explained and therefore you have to like it. Then out of nowhere, people who die in the video game also die in real life, which is not what we were told. This is not the original video game where you can die, and yet they die because ghosts appear and take their souls to hell. I know you will say it's just Kayaba again as a secret program that conveniently appeared because plot. Even if it is, there is no helmet that fries your brain. That's how people were dying in the first game, with a helmet, not with a ghost. And there is no such thing here. But no, the fanboys are going to say it has been explained because we have seen ghosts and people dying in video games before. And the info dumped a lot of shit, which means it's all science and not magic. It makes sense and therefore you have to like it. It makes so much sense not even the ones programming the game understand what is going on, despite constantly info-dumping shit, but it makes sense and you have to like it. SAO finally got good as we've been telling you all along.
A much better writer.
Kirito and Asuna are now trapped in a video game for centuries, which would be an opportunity to finally show what it's like to form societies in a virtual world. Remember when the premise of the show was all about that and it skipped everything? Well, not anymore, because Kawahara is now an amazing writer and he will not skip centuries of world building, he will show us everything. Just kidding, they skipped everything. We don't see shit regarding Kirito and Asuna forming societies, they just wake up after it's all over, because Kawahara really improved his writing. Meanwhile, Alice is now a robot in the real world. With mumbo-jumbo technology, she has an actual body and is fighting for the rights of AIs. You know, to be treated like real people who deserve respect. And she proves that by stripping and mailing herself to Kirito, thus literally objectifying herself by treating her body as a sex doll. And I know what some of you might think, she is not in love with Kirito like every other girl in the show, and she will not enter his harem. She is, after all, fighting for the rights of AIs. Why would she treat her body as a sex doll? There is absolutely nothing like that happening. She is not going to become another one of Kirito's harem bimbos, because Kawahara Reiki really improved his writing. He would not do such a thing, because Sword Art Online is not sleazy soft porn for sleazy virgin gamers who never read a proper book in their lives. It's a masterpiece, and those who disagree are not watching it right. Anyways, Kirito asks from his parents to continue his studies on video games, and they agree. Why wouldn't they? It's not like he has been trapped in death games, fell in coma numerous times, dealt with rapists who murdered thousands of people, and is now centuries old because of them. Sure thing, son, carry on with your video games. We really care about your well-being. And then Kirito goes into cyberspace and becomes a space Jesus, flying in the vacuum and easily defeating mythic space horrors with his amazing multiversal powers, thus proving once again why he's not overpowered, as many haters were claiming. Like this topic here explains, he never was. They explained it, it made sense. There are many more powerful players than him, you are not allowed to dislike it. And that's it. This was the end. There is no more. This is the end of Sword Art Online, and we can finally put this masterpiece of modern storytelling behind us.
A much better writer.
Now that the masterpiece that was Alicization is over, it's time to break down why Sword Art Online is crap with 10 simple reasons. Number 1. The show is constantly not promoted as it should, resulting to people expecting something entirely different from what it actually is. The trailers are constantly making it seem like it's some sort of an action survival thriller about people getting trapped in a deadly video game, and the fanboys are constantly saying it's about people forming societies in video games. And then you watch the show and there is hardly any of that. It's a typical power fantasy with a harem. If the show was promoted as what it actually is, we wouldn't have thousands of people constantly asking, why is the show not as good as they were saying? Number 2. The protagonist succeeds in pretty much everything no matter how dangerous the situation is, and nobody else is nearly as capable as him. There is absolutely no tension because of him, since there is nothing he can't do, either because he's much stronger than the others, or is constantly handed over broken powers. The fanboys never shutting up about him not being overpowered at all doesn't help either. Number 3, very sexual molestation. Lots of it. The fanboys say it's for theme exploration, since such things happen in real life. But when it's overused to this ridiculous extent, and the camera constantly zooms in on the privates of underage girls, it's clearly there for the male gaze. It's sleazy fan service for those who have a molestation fetish. Number 4. Molestation is used as a cheap way for making the villains despicable. The fanboys will insist that if it manages to make you hate the villains, then there is no problem. But the truth is, it makes them one-dimensional. For a show that is supposed to be deep in showing how people form societies in video games, and with villains whose motivations don't stop at molesting women, this becomes a very lazy way for making the audience hate them without having to prove their ideologies are wrong. When the only thing the viewers want is to see these assholes getting smacked around by Kirito, not because their beliefs are misguided, but because they are molesters, then there is no theme exploration, no debate, no reason to question whether video games are doing something wrong. It's shallow emotional manipulation for the lowest common denominator amongst the audience. Number 5. The show is undeniably a harem. As much as the fanboys claim it's not because Kirito has chosen Asuna, it doesn't change the fact that almost every girl loves Kirito, and there is a huge support harem going on. This ruins the characterization of the girls, because despite each of them having a story to tell, it becomes obsolete the moment Kirito steps in to help them out. They enter the cheerleader squad and do nothing thereafter, other than constantly giving him an ego stroke. They are no longer characters with their own lives and ambitions, they are disposable fap material. Number 6. They say most of what is going on instead of showing it. The info dumps are ridiculously long, tedious, and don't make the show better in any way. And as much as the fanboys claim they explain everything and therefore there are no plot holes, it doesn't matter. The explanation was boring and the execution is terrible, because eventually everything comes down to you can do anything you want just because you want to, and Kirito is the only one who abuses that for some really ridiculous resolutions. Number 7. Down to it, the show doesn't care that much about exploring any themes. Everything is secondary to gamer pandering, aka using video game terminology for making itself sound cool to gamers. And even then it's not doing a good job, because the games are shit. What kind of a video game has ghosts that appear to give you broken abilities when you're already overpowered? It's bullshit for those who love seeing numbers going up instead of caring about characterization or theme exploration. Number 8. There are lots of time skips because the author doesn't know how to fill the plot with something interesting. The fanboys claim it's not his fault because there was a world limit in the initial version, or that grinding is boring so you might as well skip the training and go straight to the result. If that is so, and most of the plot has to be skipped because it's boring, then the story's crap! When the thing everybody does mostly in MMOs is grinding, and you skip the grinding in an MMO story, then what kind of a plot are we talking about here? Number 9. Cop-outs and plot armor everywhere. The fanboys claim that every show has them, and yet not every show abuses them to the point where none of the victories feel deserved. It doesn't matter how hard the build-up was, or how serious the objective is, when the resolutions always feel cheap. It's like, why are you even watching this when you know it's going to be disappointing? On top of that, the constant time skips are only making things worse because of how much more frequent they become because of the fast pacing. And number 10, for a plot that is constantly about world-shaking events, the world doesn't seem to give a shit. The horrible things that keep happening in video games are constantly ignored by everyone, and they continue to play what to them are death traps. It's as if there never are any consequences for what happens in them, because most of the plot is skipped. This alone shows the lack of effort and how down to it, SAO is nothing more than shallow gamer pandering for virgin otakus.